What would be a funny thing to say to a surgeon before anesthesia kicks in 5 seconds later? I had broken my wrist and was being put under to have 4 pins inserted. They gave me my anesthesia through an IV. I felt coldness spreading up my arm and across my chest. The nurse asked how I was doing and I said, "This must be what dying feels like." Speaking as someone who has died and been brought back and been put under for dozens of surgeries, this is actually pretty accurate to my experiences. Those final moments are pretty easy, and there's nothing you can do to change it. You're along for the ride, and it's somehow chased by a sense of calm acceptance. Although I suppose you could die a confusing and or traumatic death, so don't let me romanticize the ease of it all too much. Wow, I actually have a relevant story that happened recently. As I was getting ready to go under, they were placing a device in my mouth to keep me from biting down on the scope that they were going to use for the endoscopy. Think medical ball gag, but a hard plastic ring inside of a ball. As the girl was placing it in, I asked, "Wait, what's the safe word?" I heard a good amount of laughing as the world turned to black. Lol. My first endoscopy went so well, I turned all the suppressants away they offered me on my second time. And I was awful. Like being molested by a demon. So next time I'm going to ask them for everything they have to offer. Related comment, but doesn't really answer the question. My dad was in the middle of a surgery repairing some pretty nasty damage on his wrist after a skiing accident. He was under heavy anesthesia, but the surgeons were having serious troubles with the screws in his wrist, which apparently jarred him around enough to wake up. He noticed their struggles and managed to say, "Righty-tighty, lefty-loosey." Then he passed back out. Ha! I'm told that when I was out having one of my fingers patched up and another reattached after a table saw accident, I asked the surgeon if the drill he was using to put screws in my hand was a DeWalt or Ryobi. Once a tool man, always a tool man. I had just woken up after having my shoulder worked on. I was in and out of consciousness for a bit and just generally whacked out. I guess I shifted in the bed and moved the blankets a bit and exposed myself as the nurse came in. She smiled and moved the blankets back. I apparently told the nurse, "You saw mine, do I get to see yours?" My wife was in the chair next to the bed. I remember thinking the nurse was smoking hot. I woke up and she told me she was flattered. I have no idea what I said. Before going under for wisdom teeth, the doctor said I might feel funny. They pushed the drugs and asked if I felt any different. My asshole, and only my asshole, began to itch like crazy, and it was hot, not warm, hot like I just ate peppers with my ass. I told them that my asshole is itching like crazy. The assistant was really bad at holding back a laugh. The doc resisted mightily, but he too succumbed to my newly discovered butthole emotions. They actually gave me some kind of drug that had the exact same effect when I had surgery. They warned me prior though, and I kind of laughed it off until it actually happened. As the anesthesiologist was putting me under, he just said I'd start to feel sleepy soon. I asked him, "Aren't I supposed to be counting back from 100 or something?" He replied, "I don't know. I must have skipped that class." Being an anesthesiologist must be awesome, as you can always get the last word in. Anesthesiologist: "Okay, how are you feeling now?" Me: "Makes lame joke." Oddly, at the same point, the room starts cracking up. No way it was that funny, right? Anesthesiologist: "Told you so." Turns out he gave me a little anti-retrograde amnesia before a spinal block, endured my stupid joke, then told the room, "Watch this, he's going to say the same dumb thing again, word for word." I was being put under for a wisdom tooth extraction a few years back, and it was the first time I'd ever had anesthesia. They used injection method rather than gas, so they told me to watch the fluids going in so I could gauge when I'd feel sleepy. I had this idea that I would say something like, "Oh no, doc, I've lost my eyesight," or something else preposterous. Before I could collect my thoughts, I just immediately blurted, "Well, shit." My voice progressively getting lower and passed out. This was basically how I was putting under. "So how long will this surge?" This is some good. Last time I went under, as I started to fade, I said, "You're gonna have to drive." I messed up. Probably came out, "You're gonna have to drive." I missed. I said something similar, except it was when I woke up. The doc asked how I was feeling and said, "Fine, I've been drunker than this before. Good thing I'm not driving." I was seriously screwed when I woke up from that chair. Despite what I had said, I've never been so drunk I needed a wheelchair and 2 people to get me in the car. Just before I blacked out, the anaesthetist said to me, "This is the stuff that killed Michael Jackson." Propofol is good stuff. I didn't even know they'd put the medicine in yet, and I was talking to the anesthesiologist about whatever random stuff, and then woke up in a different room. Waking from anesthesia one time, I heard someone say, "His blood pressure's a little high." Then I mumbled, "That'd be the anaesthetist's assistant's fault." They then, kind of startled, asked quickly, "Why is that?" Becoming slightly more coherent, I continued with, "Well, she's really hot." They all laughed and said, "He'll be fine," and released from theatre. How it really sounded. "His blood pressure is a little high. The assistants." What was that? "She's really hard here. Get this man out of here." Awful lot of white people in here. Me after being sedated for a colonoscopy. That reminds me of the last colonoscopy I had. The sedation didn't take, and I woke up several times during the procedure yelling in pain and confusion before I conked out for good. When I woke up, the doctor tried to talk to me about how I was feeling, but I was so upset and freaked out I hissed at him and then refused to speak at all. So after my dad had a triple bypass and was just waking up, they had removed the breathing tube. I was in the room with him. I said something along the lines of, "Everything went perfect with your surgery, Dad. No problems." My dad in his drug haze said, "That is because I am perfect specimen of the human male, and it couldn't have gone any other way." Nurses were cracking up. If he was a perfect specimen, he wouldn't have needed a triple bypass now, would he? When I got my wisdom teeth removed, "Doctor, alright, so you're feeling that sedative yet?" Me, "Yeah, a little bit. I bet I can stay awake though. How long can people usually fight it?" Doctor, "Not long. Good night." Me, blackout. I remember laughing when I woke up because that was the last thing I remember. I had this exact same conversation. The only difference was I woke up halfway through them taking out my wisdom teeth. My mother could hear me yelling from the waiting room. The doctor was, a little surprised. My surgeon told me to think of a happy place. Then he asked me where it was. The Simpsons kicked in, and I told him it was the happiest place on earth, Tijuana. I didn't stay awake long enough to see if he got the reference. He started singing, "South of the border down Mexico way. That's where I fell in love when the stars above came out to play. Now as I wonder, my thoughts ever stray south of the border down Mexico way." I had to get some surgery that involved cutting open my head. Right before they gassed me, I said, "I should warn you, there's a spooky skeleton in there." The last thing I remember is his response of, "I'll try to look out for that." "Thank Mr. Skeletal." I swear, if I wake up as RoboCop. Or alternatively, "I didn't ask for this." If I don't make it through this, tell my wife I want her to be buried alive with me. If I don't make it out alive, tell me wife I changed the Netflix password and she'll never know it. I tend to get massive erections while under anesthesia, but it's fine. Just tape it down if it gets in the way. Apparently that's actually a thing. The blood flow is actually usually stopped by a muscle, and when that muscle relaxes, the blood flow increases and causes a boner. So the anesthetic relaxes this muscle. This also explains the random boners you get in algebra in high school while you're bored. When I got my wisdom teeth out, the dentist's office was right next to a funeral home. I told the guy that if anything went horribly wrong, they could just take me next door. Mother and doctor were not amused. "Just take me next door and pop me in a to-go box." As they were pushing the drugs, they asked me to count backwards from 10. All I could say was, "No." The room erupted in laughter, and I was out. When I was a kid, they told me to count back from 10, so I did. I got all the way to 0, and all the doctors were looking at one another extremely confused. And just before they were about to do something, I conked out. I had to have a polynoidal cyst removed from my ass crack. and can remember giggling like a madman because I asked the entire operating room, "So, who drew the short straw and has to shave my ass?" Wait, they put you under? I went into the ER for one when I was 19 and didn't have any idea what it was or why it hurt so bad. The doc numbed me up, didn't wait for the anesthetic to kick in and started cutting. I started passing out from the pain and the nurse made me lie down while she commented, "There's so much blood." It was one of the worst pains I had ever experienced. When I had my wisdom teeth removed and was given general anesthetic, I apparently said, "If this is what being on drugs is like, sign me up." He went and told on me to my mother. The general anesthetic I was on for mine made me absolutely loopy. My GF walked me to the pharmacy, told me to sit down and not go anywhere. I said, where would I go? Like it was the dumbest thing anyone had ever told me to do. The moment she turned to go get my prescriptions filled, I got up and wandered off. I still don't know where I was trying to go. I actually did the same thing before both of mine. I managed to get out. "I'll see you in the future, doc," or something. Either way, once the drugs kicked in, I didn't care. I asked for a tummy tuck while being wheeled in for a bowel resection. I said, "While you're cutting it open, just cut some off." And when I was done my surgery, but still pretty messed up on drugs, I asked if I was skinny and then cried when my doctor told me he didn't give me a tummy tuck. Same doctor, different procedure, terribly inappropriate joke. Had to have a colonoscopy, so they gave me some medication where I was awake, but it was weird. Anyways, I was feeling silly and told him, first time doing anal on camera, and I'm not even getting paid. I asked for a tummy tuck after both of my C-sections. Doc gave me the same answer each time. I make it work. I don't make it pretty. Right before I went under to have surgery on my septum, I was about to start counting backwards before they put the mask on. Does anyone need anything while I'm out? The last thing I remember was an OR room full of people hysterically laughing. I'm going to need to get to surgery so I can use this. A buddy of mine was having surgery and went, "Rosebud!" right as he passed out. That's awesome. Another good one would be, "Mother of mercy, is this the end of Rico?"